Hi guys, it's me, Kathy, or Kat, MrsHandyRU. I hope you're doing really well today. We're doing good, although it was cold. It was about 14 degrees this afternoon, so that was a little chilly. And today I'm going to go all the way from Decoding Juan of Savin and a talk that Tom just reposted from end of 2022, and Tom numbers, all the way from Juan to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the group, I mean, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, not the food, and then going into the Law of War Manual. So believe it or not, it's all connected. So have fun. Okay, so this is one, and Tom numbers on, I don't remember if he posted it on Psych Club or the Tom Numbers show, but one or the other, you'll find it. Most likely it was on the Tom Numbers show, and he posted it on January 6th. Okay, and this is, I didn't write down word for word because there's no way I'd be able to do that, but this is what I started off with my notes. One mentioned, let's see, mental placebo, and that's 119, and it's Mary Magdalene. So that makes sense, doesn't it? And I have no timestamps because I was listening to it where it was a premiere, and when something's a premiere, you can't see the time going by. You can't see the numbers. So sorry, I don't have the timestamps, but I'm sure if you looked at it now, you'd see the timestamps and how significant they are. Let's see. Okay, and that equals Call of Duty. You know, the game, Call of Duty. And yeah, Call of Duty is what's going to happen with these guys. It's they've made a deal. Sounds like with President Trump. That's the way I always look at it. And the four of them are going to have to meet the beast and all that stuff from Revelation 11 and leave the earth plane and then come back. So everything will be fine. Okay, so, okay, I'll try to go do it quickly. I'm already starting off too slow, but it's just snatches of phrases usually that I get down. Participate in this test. And, you know, what he was talking about at the time was talking about the, well, in general, I mean, at some point he was talking about the election and things like that. But, okay, so participate in this test, like the fake EBS and EAS is what I get. Those who lack knowledge suffer because of this, which is true. And when we find out everything, we won't be suffering as much. But I think they're giving us hints right along, you know, about making sure what we eat is healthy and things like that. I mean, I've gotten that constantly, especially lately. Yeah, take care of yourself. Try not to eat a Roundup in your bread, you know, things like that. Okay. Those who lack knowledge suffer because of this. Suffer is 75, and that's Magic Wand and John JR. And let's see, he said participate in this test again. So he brought up Mary Magdalene again, when you think about it that way, because there was two. There's Diana and Jackie. We are at war. He said we are at war, 115. And that equals end of the road. Law and order, Ruby cute. I am male and female. And that's because they're all playing men and women. They were doing roles vice versa. He said informed decision. That's 162. And it equals great solar flash, which could be after the eclipse that I keep expecting. He mentioned keeping healthy. Right here. I mean, I didn't even remember he said that, but keeping healthy, which is what I've just been going on about in the last video. I'm not going there, he said. And that's 179, setting the stage on the brink of war, looking like, right? Wayne Willott, and that's what's his character when he called into shows, before he called in his W, before he called in his Juan. The real president and put America first, which President Trump says. So when he says that, he's saying these other things, like on the brink of war, you know, and it equals 10 days of darkness. So 179, 10 days of darkness. So he brought that up basically. So is the eclipse 10 days? Is it 10 days of looking like we don't know what's going on because so many things are happening? Is it 10 days of being in the dark, kind of like we just don't understand? Is it 10 days of no internet? Is it 10 days of no electricity? I've got a feeling it's not electricity. I think it'll just be internet. Okay. He said Russian roulette, which he said a lot before. And he said that a few times in a row, and that's 217. And that's 3 days of darkness, and something big is coming. So darkness just seems to be the common thread, you know. I don't know how long. A very, very strong immune system. And that's very is 70. And, you know, he said it twice, so I decided that's what I would work on. And it's Yahweh, Y-A-H-W-E-A-H, not E-A-H, Y-A-H-W-E-H, sorry. And it equals S-G Anon. So we've already talked about that he's S-G Anon as well, Junior. Simon, okay, all this is 70. Simon is Simon Stanhope from Bite Sized Audio. That's one of the reasons I know that Simon is part of all this, and Simon is Junior. A good man, and that's something President Trump says about different candidates in rallies. So he's also saying Yahweh, secret, heroes, and all that equals Q drop. So Yahweh is Q drop, hidden God, and final call. So hidden God is all of them when they're undercover. They're all undercover. Simon Stanhope, Greg Wagland from, I always hesitate with these names because I get the two of them confused. So Simon Stanhope is Bite Sized Audio, and Greg Wagland is Magpie Audio. They both say audio in their names. Okay. Like I said, this was on January 6th. You should be able to find it. And he said spike protein was on the thyroid, precancerous. It was precancerous. And he mentioned that to me. I'm pretty sure it was the same friend that he mentioned at the end of one of the little talks. I think it was a January or February one from like, gosh, that was a year ago. And because we were talking about Mr. Handy and how he had blood clots in his lungs again. And that's been healed, but at the time it was a big deal. And he said, has he been around anybody with the thing? And I said, well, yeah, the whole family other than us. And he said, well, that's probably what happened. But I always wonder, because he double talks even, he's double talking even when he's not on the air. He does. He says almost like the opposite of what is. It's like you're supposed to just really pay attention to what he's saying. So anyway, spike protein was on the thyroid, precancerous. He said spike protein is 157. That equals death by numbers. The stage is set. Big announcement, the last rocket. That's two different things. Big announcement is one. The last rocket is another one. And he said that the spike protein is crystalline in nature. Okay. And when he said that, he meant like the way it's shaped when you look at it under a microscope, it's supposed to be crystalline, you know, it's supposed to look like that. But then when you think about what he just said, I mean, it's just coming to me right now. Crystalline in nature. So are our heads, our brains supposed to be crystalline? Is something about us supposed to be crystalline? Now, he had a crystalline or crystal, whatever, skull on his desk when he was at George Magazine. So that means something right there. Okay, I'll continue with the crystalline. So I just did a search on crystalline because I couldn't remember, does it have one L, two L's? And I bet a lot of people did that. And you come up with crystalline, it's two L's, Crystalline Management, which is a media company that empowers people to turn their passions into a profit. So he's referring us to that kind of, in a way. He is, because that's what's going to happen when all this changes. Everything changes. I think so many people are going to be able to do what they love and make a profit. You know, I think it's going to be beautiful. So be excited. Think about the good stuff that's coming. And just because we can't figure out dates and things like that, it's really okay. It's really okay. It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen, and we're going to make it, and we're going to make it together, right? Okay, so then on this general search I did, I also found in World of Warcraft, so we have war comms in there, which, you know, like the upcoming fake WW3, there's in that game, that video game, there's a crystalline flower. So I know that's why, I mean, I don't always look up like phrases and words that way, but I do it once in a great while. And it's just, it really is a matrix. It's a mosaic. It's all tied together. And don't ask me how. They did it somehow, the good guys. So the kids playing the video games are getting all kinds of information through what they're doing. And it might be driving us crazy, but I think they're getting this information kind of recessed in the back of their mind, so that when different things come up, it'll almost be like, oh, that's what you're talking about. Somehow that's going to happen. Okay. And there was another game, and it's called Elden Ring, ELDEN, Ring. And a ring makes me think of the Ring of Fire eclipse, right? Which I'm sure is going to happen. I'm just sure. And there's beings in this. They're called I don't know how to say it, but maybe it's like crystallians, like almost like stallion in there. CRYSTALIANS. And they're humanoids, and it mentions having to meet two bosses, like the two Johns, right? President Kennedy and Jr. And so that was fun. And the crystallians are found underground in caves, mines, or tunnels. Does that sound familiar? And like I said, Junior had that skull on his desk. So is he referring to that as well? I don't know. He said hormonal several times, and that equals 96, and it equals GameStop. Remember the company that everybody would buy and hold because they didn't want the big guys to take over a GameStop, I think is how it went. I can't remember the details now, but it was a big deal. Everybody would buy it and hold it. Let's see, GameStop. And that, it's just a sign to me that the game is ending. Okay, water leak, you know, like the flooding, the tsunami, all that. And also hormonal could be a female reference. Was Juan telling us at that moment that it was Diana or Jackie talking, right? It could be. I had him, Diana, I think it was Diana that was doing Mr. Cottrell, Mr. C on the original Mark Z. I don't remember what date it was, but I've got that one over here in my little packets. And he said all kinds of things about, all kinds of things about female terms, you know, that it didn't sound right coming out of like what you'd say is Mr. C. Let's see. Okay. It's hormonal 96, GameStop. It equals February. And last video I did about the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is February 12th. And, you know, I've been wrong a lot, but at some point we'll all be right. You know, somebody's going to get it. So GameStop in February matched what he said, hormonal 3 times. So 96. It equals Manhattan. And like I said before, looks like Boston area and Manhattan, New York City will have the big FF from the white hats. Blue light, right? Blue light, like Project Bluebeam on steroids, like over the top, Project Bluebeam. If you don't know what that is, look it up, Project Bluebeam, and you'll find where you can see videos about things. Look up a video and you'll find out about it. Rhetoric, like overblown speaking about something there, it's all fake and don't panic. So whatever looks like it's happening, don't freak out. And he said, now granted, this was the end of January that it was, I'm sorry, December, I think, that it was really put up, but Tom put it up on January 6th, just a little bit ago. So he said, 3 weeks out, I'll give talks on 107 daily. So I didn't do 3 weeks, but it all comes down to Antarctica. Well, it all comes down because it's a circle. It's a circle. It's not the sphere. So think of Antarctica as going around and likely with an ice wall all the way around it or something like that. Maybe not a wall, but, and it's on Gauge Vlamaste's Crater Earth series. Crater Earth is what you should search on if you want to go into that. So when it says all comes down to, it's because it's a circle. Several weeks out, he said weeks out twice. Weeks out is 119, and it's Mary to Magdalene, I think, but I didn't write that down. So it begins 311 in Star Wars, and we'll get up to 311, and we'll work on that some more. Okay. So Juan had just been on with David Rodriguez before I saw this, and I think it was on 1/6 as well, January. And he was talking about end of military. Well, no, he wasn't. Was he talking about it, or was that my coding? He was talking about section 11.3 of it's, when you look it up, if you just hear 11.3 and it's about the military, you think, oh, well, that's beginning. 11.3 is how it ends. Okay. So the military occupation can be over when you hear about section 11.3. So it's not, from what I get on, I don't know if it was January 6th or if it was January 20th. I think it would have been January 6th that the military takeover was then, or it could have been when the inauguration was. So tell me what you think. I'm kind of waffling because I'm not sure, obviously. January 6th is when President Trump called people to the capitals, to Washington, D.C., and the capitals of their states. My friends and I went up to our capital in New Hampshire. We went to Concord. A lot of people went to Washington. Then a whole silly kerfuffle happened. And that was all done on purpose. I think that was a white hat thing. I think it was the good guys that went in. You remember the guy with the horns and the animal skin and all that stuff? I'm pretty sure I worked on that like a year ago, and it was a white hat guy. Because you can do the names when they get the names and things like that, and what they're wearing. You can figure stuff out just from that. Okay, where was I? And when he was on, I don't know if David, it's Nino, I don't know if he'll have it up still or if he'll put it on behind his paywall private. I don't know, because he does that once in a while with Juan and other people. Anyway, I was like, by the way, so I write in my notes, by the way, when Juan was on in that episode, and that's a Juan phrase, by the way, he was Jackie in that episode, because there was all kinds of comms that gave you to realize that it was a woman and it was short and all this stuff. So it was Jackie doing Juan at that point. So isn't that funny? It's just funny to even think about. And the hands are, I don't know what you call it, but it's like you're wearing the mask. That's the professional quality. Well, the hands are kind of like that, but for a hand. So let's see. Oh, and so I look up, by the way. And it's so funny the way my mind works. By the way, it happens to be, it's an Indian clothing company. And I noticed that at first I thought, oh, wow, that's expensive, because I wasn't paying attention to what the money was in, what any of the currency was in. And I thought, wow, that's expensive. But it was in, what was it? Rupee. It was in Indian rupee. And I bought rupee, I bought Zim, I bought all that stuff ages ago. And so to me, he's saying, look, I'm giving you a comm in here. I mean, he says, by the way, all the time. I mean, of course, that's a gematria thing too. But by the way, is this Indian company. And so he's making reference to the Indian company, which is in rupee, for the GCR, the global currency reset. So when he says, by the way, he's kind of bringing that up. And here we go into the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I bet you wondered how I get into Red Hot Chili Peppers. So by the way is the name of a Red Hot Chili Pepper album. And it was the 8th album, and all kinds of numbers are important. If you look up any investigating about that album, you'll find all the numbers are like our numbers or Q-type numbers, like the statistics about the album or the songs even. Okay, so by the way. So the songs are, by the way, the Zephyr song, like a big wind, Can't Stop, Dosed, D-O-S-E-D, like on the cross. Remember Jesus, at least one Jesus was there. I wonder if there were two hanging out. I don't know. I think there was one, and all the other ones kind of were in on the, let's help him get out of this and get him off there. And we're going to give him something to make him look like he's dead. And they'll take him down. Okay. Okay, so I said Dosed. And then also another song on the Red Hot Chili Peppers album, by the way, is Universally Speaking. Now, I noticed, because I write my notes out, I mean, if I just say universally speaking, I don't think much of it. But here goes my train, Trump train. Universally speak. So if you look at it, it's U-N-I-V-E-R. Okay, just think of that. Now in your head, think Sully. Okay, S-A-L-L-Y. Universally, S-A-L-L-Y. So you have Sally. You have the name Sally in the end of universally. Then speaking, you have S-P-E-A-K, obviously, speak. So you have Sally speaking, or Sally speaks. There's a reason I brought that up. I don't think I have it in order. I will get back to that. I will get back to Sally. And one of the Red Hot Chili Peppers band members died in 1998. And his name is, I don't know how to say it, H-I-L-L-E-L, Hillel, Slovak, S-L-O-V-A-K. Okay? And I saw him like years ago, and he was in the Trump administration way back. And I saw him, I don't even know how I figured it out, but I figured it out. I don't remember. And he was on the White House staff. So he was, you'd see him walking around doing things in the White House, in the Oval Office. Anyway, that's, I can't remember his name. That's why it's escaping me. I tried to look up the White House staff, and I wasn't getting anywhere online. So I needed to have something more to go on. I'm sure I have it in old notes, Anyway, so one of the Red Hot Chili Peppers was in the White House working. And let's see, I'll just go through some of the info I found out about this band. It was not a coincidence. So there was a guitarist, Jack Sherman. Jack, right? Think of Jack Kennedy. Or Jack is just a nickname for John. So it could have been Junior. So Jack Sherman lived a clean life, as they put it, when they were describing this gentleman. He lived a clean lifestyle. But he was fired in 1985. And let's see. And then he passed away not long ago in 1820. So it kind of makes me think it was Junior popping in there. JFKJR. So there was a tweet from the abbreviation for Red Hot Chili Peppers, RHCP. So the band tweeted, "We of the RHCP would like to wish Jack Sherman smooth sailing into the worlds beyond, for he has passed." So smooth sailing. I already decoded that Junior was Christopher Cross. Isn't that funny? This cracks me up. So if you listen to like some kind of smooth rock, or I don't know, yacht rock type of music, you hear sailing all the time from Christopher Cross. And so when they said smooth sailing, I'm going, oh my gosh, I think it was him. I mean, I didn't work that hard on it, but I mean, I didn't decode Jack Sherman or all that. Then there was a drummer, Peligro, Peligro, and he died 10/28/22. So that was like last fall. And his name used to be Darren Henley. He's a black man, formerly of a band. You won't even believe, I always say this, but you believe it, right? He was in a band called Dead Kennedys. And he died at age 63, okay? So 63, 1963, President Kennedy took him out of the scene and exited, and it was all fake. In case you knew, he didn't die, and nobody was after him. Well, they were after him probably before that, but 11/22/1963, he and all his people that were working with him took himself out of the scene. So, okay, the Dead Kennedys, they reunited. So the Dead Kennedys had a reunion. It all came back together, which is going to happen. And let's see. And he said, a guy with a nickname of Flea, he tweeted, because he looked like D.H. Belligerent, whatever, died. He said, D.H. Belligerent, forever and ever, my dear brother, I'm so grateful for our time. I love you forever. So forever and ever, like life going on and on, it doesn't end, which is true. And talking about brother, like, alluding to the fact that John and John are twin brothers, President Kennedy and Junior. Okay. And then there's so many things in this band. I bet if you looked at any band, you'd probably find something weird going on. So, and John Anthony, I don't have a clue to say this one. It's probably Italian or something. Frusciante, Frusciante, I don't know. Joined the RHCP at age 18, so we have 18 again, after the death of Hillel. John left, John, and then Anthony, because remember his brother, Patrick, became Prince Anthony Radziwill, in case you didn't know. That's the way I look at it. Okay, and Prince Anthony Radziwill was his best friend, right, and cousin. Well, it was really his brother, Patrick, that looked like he died at 3 days old. Okay, so John left in 1992, a recluse. then he went solo, supposed heroin addiction, and okay, and I'll get to the release, but so the name that I can't say properly is 163, and that's Make America Great Again. And it equals 23, which we know John JFKJR was calling as W, which is 23. W is 23. So a record label that he used is Birdman. Remember, Junior was called Lark, which is a bird. It's a kind of a sparrow by the Secret Service, so he's called Lark. And one song he did, you guys, this is so cool. He said it was called Usually Just a T-Shirt was the name of a song. And I've already worked on a decode that I'll get to, not today, but it's something about T-shirts. And it just all ties together. So he rejoined, so this man, John, another John, rejoined the RHCPs, and he did an album called By the Way. So here we have By the Way again. So it's not just a Juan-ism, it's an album title. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2012. So he's been all over the map. He grew up in Queens, New York. All this is the backstory is just fake, you know that. He grew up in Queens, like Lady Diana. You can think of her as the new queen. Well, not literal, but you know. And his father was a judge. Think of like President Trump and President Kennedy and himself. They'll be judges. They have been judging people. Let's see. Okay, I'm back to, I was talking about universally speaking. I had the pages out of order. And see, the name Sally is in the end of universally. And I've listened to Sally Ann Burnett, supposed a kind of like a guest speaker on Magpie Audio. And Magpie is Greg Wagland. And all of that codes too, Junior. So, I mean, you can work on it too. And let's see. So Sally Ann Burnett. So a lot of the names that you run into that are important have double letters. And sometimes I'll look at something and go, oh, there's double letters. That's important because they use names quite often that have multiples of double letters. And that's because they're referring you to twins. So they're trying to make you think two all the time in your subconscious. So, okay. Sally, of course, has two L's and two N's. Burnett has two T's. So 3 sets of double letters right there. And she reads, it's quite long. It's in sections, and it's Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Now, likely, you know, one of these guys was Jane Austen. Maybe it was Diana. Maybe it was Jackie. They all pop in and out wherever they're needed. I think that the President Trump tells them what to do. These guys, I think I've talked about it before, that they don't have control over their own lives. They can get out and do things. So, I mean, they do to a point, but they have certain things they have to accomplish until they meet the beast. And then they're free. Then they're free. Then we're free from all the curses, because then the Christ, or Christ plural, I don't know exactly what will happen, have died, shed their blood for us, because as far as I can decode and figure out, the person that we hear about as Christ didn't die on the cross. So if they didn't die on the cross, they didn't become a propitiation, as they say in the Bible, or a replacement for our sins. So that hasn't happened yet. And that's partly why we have all these problems. So it's not just stuff in the food. It's like sins of the fathers from the 10 generations, or maybe I have that number wrong. It's easy to sin when you're not under grace. Let's see. It's not a big deal. It's not like somebody committed murder. You know, it could be all kinds of things. Okay, so she reads Pride and Prejudice. And so that reference back then to universally speaking was a reference to Sally Ann Burnett. Sally was speaking. I know it is. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and Robert Palmer had a song, and it was called Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley. A lot of double letters there, right? And yeah, there's double A's and L's and all kinds of things. So Robert Palmer supposedly died. I think it was supposed to be a heart thing. And I've talked about him before, but he's not dead. Or if he was, he came back again. And, you know, and he's in a Clouseau video. So if you're a Robert Palmer fan like I am, look him up. And if you're wondering who's in the video, sometimes in the beginning you find out. Sometimes you have to wait till the end of the video to find out. And then they have like, they show who's circled in the audience, who's who. But they also show after that individual photos of each person. So it's easier to compare them. Anyway, so he's in a clue, and it's CLOU 1SEAU. 2 S's is the Pink Panther movies. Pink Panther's tied to this too. Okay. Let's Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley. Well, Sally is 69, and it's eclipse right there. And it equals not plural, like I'm always saying, quite often anyway. It's false flappy thing, FLAG. Like, that means if you're new to all this, it means something that looks like it happened, it didn't happen in one way or another. It's either fake names, it could be look like an accident that was a real accident, but it was staged. It could be lots of things. I mean, World Trade Center was one. So, I mean, that definitely came down, but you still call that kind of thing the false thing. I don't know if that made sense. Let's see, what else does Sally equal? Eclipse, it equals what I just said. Black hole, and remember, if it's a solar eclipse, it looks like it has a hole in the middle. So black hole also matches 69, which matches eclipse, matches arsenic, poison, right? Who am I, right? So Sally equals who am I, and Camelot. So we have that. So likely Sally is Jackie. I haven't worked on Sally and Burnett enough to know for sure which of the ladies is playing Sally and Burnett. Of course, with a British accent. And like I said, it's Pride and Prejudice on Magpie Audio. And a lot of people just love that anyway. Even if you don't want to work on coding, listen to it. You'll love it. Let's see. Oh, another thing that, yeah, I won't even go into it. Something yucky. So back to Juan. And he said, okay, the next thing I wrote is, you cannot tell me it's not a normal person. And that, to me, that was like a subtle alien reference, or a substitute, or him. Could even be referring to himself. You know, not a normal person. Like it's him, it's somebody else, or part, you know, he's alien, part alien. On a very specific subject, he was talking about somebody else. On a very specific subject, contracted to do. You know, it's like ... and then contracted to do. And to me, that is like what I said just a few minutes back, that they don't have control over their assignments. They literally are doing what they're told to do or assigned to do. And let me just say this, Juan says, and that's a Juanism to me, and it's 226, and it equals, that's simple, yep, my birth date. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It's not my birth. It's November 14th, and I wrote next to it, my birth date, that's my birth date. So 226 is November 14th, and it equals Trump is president, and Donald Trump okay, I spell a lot for one reason or another. MurDered. Put it all together. Donald Trump. Strength in numbers, like our numbers. Robert Francis Kennedy. So that was cool. I don't remember his numbers, but you know, for all I know, he's a Juan as well. He mentioned computer trades. Well, computer equals 111, and that's New York. So we had a Manhattan earlier in the conversation. Now we have a New York, which is illusion. Yeah, New York and illusion. It's a lot more than that, but that's what I have. And he said AI for artificial intelligence several times, and AI equals 10, and that's a J for John. He said the biggest dogs, he was talking about, you know, the big wigs or something like that. He said the biggest dogs, we'll reverse it to gods, the biggest gods. And he mentioned middle of winter. So to me, possibly things are happening by the middle of winter or begin, I'm not sure. And then he said, we're not going to let the country run the people. I didn't get that word very well, but we're not going to let the country run I think it was people, like I said. But you can also look at it as we're not going to let the country run. Full stop. We're not going to let the country run. Over. It's over. And then I think he said sooty, which is like what I call a Trumpology, and not city. So sooty is 94, and that's John. Now, I don't say it like John, which a lot of people say that that's his nickname, but I remember hearing Juan say that that wasn't his nickname, or that he didn't like that nickname. So the way I look at it is it's the two Johns. It's President Kennedy and himself. Let's see. Juan said after the first of the year, and then he said 10 states, and then first 4, which to me is like the 4 witnesses, because I think it's 4 and not 2. 2 is in the Bible. Revelation 11, the witnesses. So first 4, and then he said the second one, and I think he's the next in line, you know, after his brother. He said all these earthquake comms, very out there in the open. He mentioned magnitude. It changes the game again. Magnitude is 94, and it's John again. He is still a president. They never impeached him. He's a president for life. Now, he said a president for life, meaning that he has the title of president, because if you're impeached, if it goes all the way through the Senate, and the Senate votes impeachment, I mean, the House voted impeach, but the Senate didn't. And what the Senate does is the end of it. So they didn't do it either time. And so anyway, what he's kind of literally meaning as he's talking is he's a president for life, meaning they can't take that title away from him. But president for life to me means he's probably president for life. I don't know how else to, because I don't think he would have said it this way. I don't think he would have said it this way unless he meant it. He's still a president unimpeached. So he brought that up again. Now I could have done unimpeached. You know, there's a lot of ways to look at these things and I never tell people anymore. I never remember. When I'm doing this coding, I'm doing geomatrix.org, but I know I said that earlier in my other video, but yeah, geomatrix.org, you plug in the phrase or the word, and now I'm looking at Jewish matches that pop up and simple gematria matches. And if I'm in a hurry, I got to be honest, I usually just look at simple, you know, and see what inside of me is telling me that is the match I'm supposed to pay attention to, which is God. You know, I think God's talking to me. Congress certified the election, but failed to verify. He said that twice. Let's see. 2023, Congress can address the legal issues. And of course, it's all a play. None of this matters. Whatever happens in Congress, this is all pretend. You're watching a complete movie. Nothing that they pass for a law, nothing that they do is going to stick. Nothing is legitimate, nothing. So if you're worried about anything, don't, really don't. And the thing with Kevin McCarthy, I said at the beginning of the last video, in case you missed it, it was a Q post from 5 years to the day. So it was all planned that it would be 15 ballots to get him in. It was planned. So don't worry about anything. So it was a Q post from 1/7/18. If you want to look it up on qposts.online. Okay, let's see. And then he said, okay, so the way I looked at that, Congress can address the legal issues. To me, it was like, okay, a public address reference, because he said address. And he said, even if there's arrests or other things, like possibly he's a double rep meeting is President Trump, or Iran put out, they don't call it a warrant, but I don't know what they call it, but Iran put out something that said they wanted to arrest President Trump for the death of somebody. So it could be the US doing it, it could be Iran. And he recommended on a channel that he's been a guest on a few times, he recommended this YouTube channel, Flyover Conservatives. And he said they did an episode or a series, and it was called Crossing the Delaware. It was more than one, Crossing the Delaware Shows. And I wonder if he's the one that recommended the title. Who knows? And because I kept getting all the things at Christmas about crossing the Delaware, and I kept thinking things were going to happen on Christmas, but maybe something different is going to happen this Christmas, because it's still now. I still keep getting Christmas stuff. Okay. And he recommended those shows because the Law of War Manual was involved in these shows that Flyover Conservatives did. And let's see. I lost. Law of War Manual is 165. Another New York reference. It's New York Jets, and it's a football reference too. So, like I was saying last video, that there's like some football decodes and things that I've been working on, and now we're getting it from Juan about football. So, is something happening at halftime is what my point is. And at this moment, I think there might be, definitely. Let's see. And then he mentioned over 1,000 pages, the Law of War Manual. I read a little bit of it. I'm like, whoa, this is intense. And over 1,000 pages makes me think over 1,000 years of peace, possibly. That's what he might be a reference to. He said missing the dates. And boy, I've been missing the dates big time, guys. You know that. And what did he say? He said the tide turned, and I'm thinking like tsunami reference. And then he said the first event is the 11.3 event. No, he didn't say point. He said 11.3. So it could sound like a date. 11.3. He said the first event is the 11.3 event. But 11.3 is also section 11.3 of the Law of War Manual, because I looked it up. So, and then Juan said, enjoy the show. And he had a whole show on 3/11. And I think there's a lot of ways of looking at what he just said. Enjoy the show. Well, that's a cue phrase, because I'm sure he was writing this. And enjoy the show because what you're watching it's fake. All the stuff in the government, everything is fake on the news, everything. So he had a show with Jennifer Mack, and it was all about 3/11. And he talked about 11.3 and 3/11. So he looked at it both ways. And there was a big FF on, I think it was 3/11. So it would be March 11th. I think it might have been 1968. And it was, oh gosh, was it China or Russia? No. I can't remember now. Oh, you guys, I can't remember. One of them tried to did a false flag on the other. One country did one on the other. So I think somebody, I can't remember. Was it Korea? Somebody might, it's something like this, that let's pretend it was against China. Like I said, I might be getting it backwards. You might have to watch the show, which would be better anyway, to watch it or listen to it, so let's say it was against China. So the other country used like their sub, I think it was a Chinese sub, and tried to launch a nuclear weapon at Pearl Harbor again. Like they have a thing about that date, the bad guys. So it was stopped. I can't remember how it was stopped. Did it blow itself up? I think it blew itself up, kind of like that movie, Hunt for Red October, maybe. And anyway, it didn't hit Pearl Harbor, or we would have known about it, right? So enjoy the show could be a reference to have you listen to the show, or what you're watching it as a movie. And so you brought up the Law of War manual. I'm losing my voice. And so 11.2, section 11.2 is when the military occupation law applies. So it's in what situation does it apply? Well, that's not what they're talking about. They're not talking about 11.2. They're talking about 11.3. And that equals, the title is, I should say, End of Occupation and Duration of GC, Geneva Convention Obligations. End of occupation. So to me, this means it's coming to an end. Now, like I said, and in here it talks about, I'll just read part of it. Okay. The status of belligerent occupation when the conditions for its application are no longer met. Does that make sense? Oh, wait. The status of belligerent occupation ends. Yeah, I said it right. When the conditions for its application are no longer met. In particular, as discussed below, the status of belligerent occupation ceases when the invader no longer factually governs the occupied territory. So they're not governing the territory that they were, like the bad guys were running all the countries. And that's what's going on. I'm sure that over the last year, that's already been going on. The governments have changed. They've got figureheads in there that have been placed there. So to me, it's ending. It's not like just beginning. Okay. No longer factually governs the territory, or when a hostile relationship no longer exists between the state and the occupied territory and the occupying power. So it ends when let's see. Yeah, I think that's the gist of it. I won't read all this other stuff about it. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, and think about it this way. 11.3, now we're on to 11.3.2 in this Law of War manual. So it's, just look at the numbers. It's 11, it's a 3, it's a 2. Now, you have a 32 there. Well, that's Eve, right? But you always look at numbers in reverse too. When I do coding and stuff, I always look at them frontwards and backwards. So 32 reverses to 23, that's W. And remember, we've talked about 23 changes the world. Juan said that before. So that could be what he's talking about in this manual as well. It's, let's see, duration of Geneva Convention obligations in the case of occupied territory. In the home territory of parties to the conflict, the application of the GC, Geneva Convention, shall cease on the general close of military operations. In the case of occupied territory, like that would be us or in other countries, the applications of the GC, Geneva Convention, shall cease 1 year after the general close of military operations. So has it been going on for a year and then it's ending? Look at 11.3.2 and tell me what you think. Please. I would like to have an opinion. I really would. Okay. Yeah, I think that was enough for that. Okay, now I've lost my place. Yeah, we're going back to Juan again, because I keep going down these little rabbit trails. Juan says there's no secret rapture. These people that are saying it, basically, people are shit talking, he said. And I didn't do that. That'd be a fun one to do. But somebody do it, put it in the comments. I'd like to know what that one is. I can't do it all. I can't do everything. It'd be great if everybody chipped in. And that's got to be important because of what he said. You know, just the way he said it, that's got to be a big deal. Shit talking has to be a big one. There's no repentance unless the sins are revealed, was the next line I wrote. He said that. There's no repentance unless the sins are revealed. And that's what's going to happen with the beast thing. Everybody's going to find out what happened at the Garden of Eden and at the cross and maybe other places, right, that we have no idea about. And everything will be found out. People will be crushed. But then everything gets better, right? Then everything gets better 3 days afterwards. 3 days after the bad stuff. So he said something completely different than he said in the past. Next, he said, which is kind of like him to say things and then say it's different. So you kind of have to use your brain, you know? You have to go, wait a minute. Is that what he means? Or is he telling us the opposite? Like, you know, you kind of wonder. So before, he said 4 to 6% of the world wouldn't wake up. And he said and those people are the evil ones. They're the ones who would do horrible things. They're the ones that would be bleh. And so 4 up to 6%, right? And that's another way of him saying Juan, right? That's 46. That's one thing. But now he said about 20% won't wake up. I don't know exactly what he's saying. I don't know. Now, I can't remember what 20 is. It has something to do with Kennedy's. I can't remember, but that could be why he said 20%. I'll get a lot of heat, he said. I'll get a lot of heat because hell's involved in what they did. Okay, so they're going to go wherever hell is, whatever direction it is, they're going there briefly, then they're going up or over, or wherever heaven is, you know. Then they come back. I think possibly after everything changes, I think heaven is on earth, but I don't know. I don't know. So I'll get a lot of heat. That's what I know that's what he means. Another meaning for I'll get a lot of heat in coding is 168 for that phrase. And it equals New York City. It equals Massachusetts. So in my other previous video, I was saying New York and Massachusetts, Boston, sorry, my nose is itchy. It's always itchy. Are going to look like maybe they've been obliterated, you know. Anyway, so it's interesting that New York City matches flat earth. So stop and think about what I just said. Obliterated city on our phone, looking at it and all that, whatever, on the computers. Flat earth. No buildings, right? So that's another way to look at that match, flat earth. And then he said the word malleable, an AI-aided operation. And I didn't do malleable, but AI is J, and it's almost like you can say, oh, so it's a junior aided operation. I thought that was funny. He said blue pill 3 times, and that's 89, and it's winter. So here we are, we're in winter still. Or is it next winter? I have no clue. Okay, so blue pill 89 is God of War and Delta Force and winter. He said leave their friends and family. Okay, we talk about the military leaving their friends and family. Are we thinking about, well, leave their friends and family? That could be a reference to everybody goes to a fallout shelter when they don't really need to. I don't know. Yeah. And he said they won't sacrifice them. And then he said MK Ultra. And he said, he was talking about how some of them get better on their own, but he said some people try to love them out of it. And he says there's always an exception to the rule. And after the Beast event, I wrote, their love for us, they're dying for us. So they're actually, I'm saying they, because I think it's them. It's them, the 4 of them. But I can be wrong. I could be one of them. I'm not sure. He said, fastest way to snap them out of it is get them close to the brink. Well, that's what's happening right now. Everybody's being put close to the brink, and they're all, when all this stuff happened, I mean, right now they feel like they're close to the edge because all the chaos, you know, the bad news on TV, the FFs that are all over the place. I mean, I'll see a news thing pop up on YouTube and I'll decode it and go, well, that was fake. That was fake. And, you know, so there's all these things going on in everybody's little area that they'll be like, oh my gosh, that happened. And, yeah, so they're all being pushed. The cost of things went way up, the cost of food, the cost of gas, especially the cost of food and heating and things. And they're being pushed and pushed and pushed. And then the big stuff comes, right? Whenever that is, they're going to be like, what's going on? And they're going to start praying. That's what's going to happen. And then he said, he even said it, this is not a decode. He said, the earthquake generation. He said that, the earthquake generation. Well, they're going to generate earthquakes, right? It's so funny. Earthquake generation. He said, where the plates are already stressed. He was talking about stress among everybody when he called it the earthquake generation. Like everybody's like, ah. But then he says the plates are already stressed. Then you add the energy, like military, off planet, whatever. And then he said, what he said? He said, quake targeted near the breaking point. He said all that. And he said, same thing with society. So he was talking about earthquakes. He's making a comparison to where society is and that they're stressed like an earthquake at the breaking point. I've been waiting for an earthquake. I think it, like I said before, I think it's going to be like, it look like all U.S. earthquakes are going off at one time. Okay, I'm talking too much. I got to get to the point. He said, this is my only halfway free day. Because he said he was, you know, pages to go. But, you know, he's saying that he had to go. And this is my only halfway free day. Okay? Halfway free. He's kind of free, but he's told what to do is the way I hear it. So he's saying, you know, he had enough time to talk, but he had to get going. Well, that's not quite all it meant. I think he's just letting you know things are going on that I really have to do, that I don't have any choice. He said Midwest, Southwest, Southeast, 8 states in 10 days. And he changed coasts more than 4 times in 2 weeks. And I was thinking, well, a tsunami changes the coast. And plus, I think everybody's going to be affected by all these things upcoming, whenever, all the areas, Northeast, everywhere. And he said, I haven't checked the fence lines lately. So he said fence lines. And you know, there's the I can't remember what that one was called, but that video he put out, or movie, was it called? Anyway, where he was mending a fence near the beginning, you know, he was out there and all you saw was his shoes and he was pounding on the fence, putting it back together. Fence lines is 92 and it equals reverse. And he had just said reverse before that. So it was like, oh, he's emphasizing reverse, like something changing. And it equals Manhattan. So yet again, all in this one thing, we're getting Manhattan, New York, Massachusetts. He said the sinking of the Lusitania, which started World War I, he said, he was asking the guys, maybe it was Tom or Rachel, I don't remember, what do you think the Lusitania is named for? And he said, Lucis, the devil, and like the Lucis Trust. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Lucius or Lucis. Remember the Lucis Trust, which is the devil trust. Let's see. He said people knew the social security system would fail, but people blew it off, like a volcano, maybe, blew it off. And he said, target, you're being targeted. Like all these things that are bad that I'm thinking of. He said the 12 tribes of Israel, not all one blood type for all of their people. So I didn't decode any of that. One thing that I would say to all of your listeners, that was another line I should have done. There's a lot of bends and twists in the road, and I'm thinking earthquake cracks, changing the road. The alignments, and I'm thinking sun and moon aligning. If you've got questions, go to the Father of Life, God of creation. Well, we're listening to him, in my opinion. One of them. He's, okay, and he said intermediary at some point, where I don't... He said, you don't need an intermediary. God himself is the author of inspiration. Intermediary happened to be one of the words I worked on. And intermediary is 141, and that's me again, MrsHandyRU. So that was fun. Let's see. God himself is the author of inspiration, because he's inspiring our thoughts, and our thoughts are leading to actions. That's the way I'm looking at it. So he's inspiring us in our dreams even. I mean, I have somewhere I've got a decode of a dream. I think it's when I've got things about Jackie and Diana. I don't know when I'll get to that, but I had a dream and all of it coded to what I've been working on, especially with Jackie and Diana. So the whole dream, everything in the dream, it was, well, unbelievable. It was believable. It was real. And God himself is I said that. A sincere prayer will get a sincere response. God himself, there's two words, is equal 98, and it equals Jennifer Mack. And letter R, I know God. God himself. It equals I know God. And it equals right here. It equals right here, because that's who's talking. It equals 3-5. So when you see things on like 35 timestamps or 3 minutes and 50-second timestamps or Q posts or something, it can be Jennifer Mack right here and things like that. It equals boyfriend. So like Jennifer Mack and boyfriend are both 98. Letter R. I just so funny. So God himself. You guys, we're living in the best time ever. Ever, ever. You know that, right? We're just so blessed to be here and understanding a little bit of what's going on. Oh, I can't take it sometimes. I get to it, my face hurts, you know, I've been smiling so much. And another oneism, he said, by the way, again, and that, of course, we worked on before with all the red hot chili peppers and everything, and the Indian clothing store previously. Okay, by the way, it's 109, and that's 17, Diana Spencer, and hello, George. And it equals Los Angeles, which could be, you know, another earthquake pointer. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm so hoarse. He said, the blood of Christ is able to cleanse all sin. Okay? All. Every single bit. Every little dot. Every bit. But if it hasn't happened yet, like I've been saying, it hasn't been covered up. Okay? It's still there. Don't feel bad, because there's nothing we can do about it at this moment. But it will be taken care of. Okay? And anybody who passed away before you, and if you later on you're thinking, well, wait a minute, what about so-and-so that died, or my family or something? Oh, does that mean where are they going? Are they going to the other place because they weren't under the blood of Jesus, if that's the way you think? I mean, you might not be Christian or Catholic or whatever it is. But I think everybody's held in limbo somehow, unless they want to come back and they're reborn. I think it's kind of like up to you. And, well, maybe everybody was reborn. I don't know. Maybe it's every single person. But if they're not going on to maybe the heavenly places are not available till all this comes to fruition, right? So I wouldn't worry about where they went. God isn't going to put them there because Christ and the cronies and all the guys back then screwed up. You know, he's not gonna punish them because of that. So I think there's a lot of limbo going on and reliving, you know, coming back. Okay, the blood of Christ is able to cleanse all sin. He said, keep the faith, and keep the faith, and there is hope. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. It's 114, and it equals Pearl Harbor, trump card. Sorry, I don't know. I better get wind up. Now I'm all teary-eyed. It's 114, and it equals JFK Jr. and trump card and guardian angel. It equals wink, wink. So that's what keep the faith is. All the people in this audience are in my prayers. And in this audience, which he says quite often, in this audience is 141, and it's me again, MrsHandyRU. So I didn't realize that. It equals prime creator, which is way more important than matching MrsHandyRU. And here's Johnny again, matches, like I said, and dies suddenly. Now, that's not me, but it could be him, right? Because of the 4 witnesses situation. And he said, right after that, he goes, oh, okay, I'll just say it again. All the people in this audience are in my prayers. I do sweat bullets. And, you know, he had more to say. I do sweat bullets. And I'm thinking about the Beast event upcoming. So, yeah, yeah. He said, be counted on the winning team. And to me, it's another reference to, will look like the U.S. loses this war, you know, and the bad guy, what are supposed bad guys win, when really we're all working together. I will see you in the heavenly city when this is all over. So another reason it makes me think, well, the heavenly city is probably not available yet, right? It's just kind of like when it's over, he said. He said, but let's not leave 1 minute sooner than we have to. 1 minute sooner is 202, and it equals total solar eclipse. And it equals heaven is a place on earth, like I've been thinking, possibly. And it equals the firstborn son, scars from the past. Remember the scars on his hands before they started wearing that the cover-up thing, that like a mask on his hands. It equals the firstborn son. I think I just said that because he was the older of the two, the twins. I can read people's minds. So he knows what I'm talking about right now. All the world's a stage. So that's pretty cool. That is enough. I don't know how long that was, but that felt long. I mean, it's exciting, but losing my voice through it doesn't help, you know? So I love you guys. And thank you for your donations to help Mr. Handy with buying that Rife, the Spooky 2 Rife, R-A-F-E machine and the system and everything. And we've had some, you know, really generous donations. And if you've sent it to me in the mail, I'm writing, you know, real thank you notes back. I'm not just going, oh yeah, I got money. So, and if you don't get one right away, I will get to it. I will get to it. And I'm very appreciative, and it makes him so excited. It just makes him so excited. And I've gotten things on PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee, which are all linked below. And I'm just very grateful for you all. I am so grateful. And I do feel like we're a family. I really do. I know that sounds kind of corny. Like maybe all the YouTube people say that. I don't know, but I do feel like it. So anyway, I love you guys. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And if I don't know the answer, maybe somebody else will. And like I said before, my email is MrsHandyRU at Comcast, Comcast.net. So I love you very much. Take care. Bye.